morning, everyone. I hope you can see the chat. Sherry's gonna come in a few minutes and do the introduction, but I don't know if you're all are able to see the chat. So just as a heads up. But thank you for joining.
We have a great group going right now, so I will give it one more minute and we want to get started, Laquana? Perfect. Okay. Silence. Y'all are probably hearing all of the chimes going right now. As you see, this is a very active group. Give me just a second here so we can make sure we're do not disturb.
Good morning, Laquana.
Good morning.
It is 11:04, so I'll go ahead and get us started and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining our forum today. My name is Sherry Potter, and I'm the Division Project Manager for Housing, Finance, and Development. In this session, we will provide general guidance and common errors that you will see most within our Emphasys certification portal platform. For those who may not know, the Emphasys certification portal is where we receive the monthly submissions of tenant documents and yearly submissions of regulatory documents, along with compliance requested physical inspection, tenant file audit, and asset management requested financial documents. Since this session is being recorded for all of our interested partners, and we're so happy that y'all came today to view, we will not be able to discuss project-specific questions and or concerns. You'll even see throughout this forum that the visual examples utilized are from a test property that we created within the certification portal. So yes, there might be a little bit of difference based on our dashboard compared to what you have when you actually access your account. However, if you have project-specific questions on your property or properties that are active within Emphasys, please click on the form stack linked in the chat, and we will have that in the chat shortly for you, and complete the form to get a meeting scheduled with one of our Emphasys portfolio analysts. I'm going to go over some house rules really quick because this is a pretty quick forum. We only have about an hour to go over a lot of information. So we ask everyone to stay muted and enter any non-project specific questions that you have related to our forum in the chat. Today's forum will be recorded and uploaded to the Emphasys training section on the Office of Portfolio Management website and linked in the upcoming Office of Portfolio or OPM blast. We will save the last 20 minutes at the end of this session for a Q&A related to this forum's presentation, both from the questions that you've input in the chat, and during that time, you can also go off of mute and ask your questions yourself as well. Just a quick reminder, the property used during this forum is a test property. And again, our dashboard will look vastly different from what you probably see when you access your account. Laquana will go over that in her overview. So for any project specific questions, again, please utilize the form stack link that we'll have available for you shortly so that someone on my team can reach out to you and set up a meeting. So that ends everything that I have for the house rules. I will pitch it over to Laquana so she can introduce the team and start our forum.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. You could have been anywhere this morning, but you are here with us in this forum. So thank you for joining us. My name is Laquana. You're going to hear from Jasmine and Marvetta shortly, our other Emphasys portfolio analyst team members. And yeah, let's get started. So I am going to share my screen, but I first want to discuss, I've dropped maybe 5 different links in the chat. So that is the HFD Emphasys email. So again, I know a lot of you guys utilize that email, but continue to utilize it. It is the main way to get in touch with anybody on our team. I've also added the compliance team email in here as well. It used to be that you would get a lot of emails when it comes to non-compliance from the compliance team, but as of right now, we have taken over any issues that you guys get when y'all are getting those out of compliance errors. So that's why you're going to start getting more emails from that HFD Emphasys email. As Sherry stated below earlier, please make sure you are subscribed to our blast. I mean, we have a good amount of people in here, so good job on subscribing to the blast, but make sure anybody in your team who will benefit from that information also signs up. I'm going to start by going, let me also say, just as Sherry mentioned earlier, the meeting request form. Again, this forum is just not project specific, but overall view of what our certification portal looks like when you're entering tenant data or what have you. But if it gets project specific, please create a form stack so we can work on setting up a meeting with you all and your team. Okie dokie. I am going to start by just going over our Emphasys compliance page. So a lot of you all email us like, how can we get some additional training or any of those other resources? This is the page that we will send you first to ensure that you can see our Emphasys manual for our management companies. Very, very beneficial, very, very helpful. It has a lot of visuals on there that you can benefit from as well. The FAQs and the training videos are also on there, our contact information, the property setup form. So we did start a new process where you will need to complete the place and service form, but it's actually the new project form. And I also have put that same link in the chat. But if you need to set up your property, or you realize your property isn't in the system, that is this is the page you'll go to get you to the form. And then this comes with all of our general communication that you may hear from our super user blast or our special blast that may come out. Um, that is pretty much it on this page, but I did want to share this with you all because we want to make sure that you do have another resource other than reaching out to us to be able to see those manuals. This is the certification portal. I have to be very clear that if you are a super user, or a super user has access to this entire, their screen should look just like mine, excluding, of course, I have different capabilities than you all, but a super user has access to the entire portfolio. So your screen may look like a lot more properties on here, but that is for super users only. So on-site managers, they get to see project specific data. So I do have a lot of people who are on-site managers, but please, again, make sure any communication that you have, that you are putting your super users in these emails that you send us, along with if not getting the super users to initiate those conversations with us, so we can ensure that the person that we are talking to is trained to help you guys, and that we can clear that communication gap that we may have. But I did want to make sure we talked about super users. If you realize that you are having a super user that may have changed, or someone needs to be removed as a super user or added, please make sure you are emailing HFD Emphasys, that email that is in the chat, because that'll be very useful to ensure that we can get your credentials updated, or anything of that nature. Okay. I also wanted to go, if you go into this screen and you don't see a project, maybe that it's new, or a project that maybe exists and you do not see it. If you have any issues when it comes to that, make sure you also email us so we can get that updated, or possibly see what's going on our end to ensure that we can get you guys updated in the system. I am now going to show you, as Sherry said, go into our test property, just so you guys can see a general overview. I'm sure a lot of you may be experts at this, but we're going to just do a general overview and review of submitting the tenant certs and what have you, but I am going to go over the main screens. So let me go into my sample. Okay, so once you type in your project number, if you have to, this is what your screen should look like. You can go in from the building standpoint, where it will take you immediately to all of your buildings that is in the project, or you can go to the magnifying glass. So for right now, I'm going to show you how to go in through the magnifying glass. It takes you to your general information tab. On that tab, it shows you basically the just general overview. Please make sure, even when you look in this tab and you see the address, make sure your address is correct, because that could cause issues later on when you're trying to do your submissions if it's not pulling limits from the right area. Here you have your electric documents, and with those documents, you'll get a lot of times people from someone from our compliance team or asset management team asking you to maybe upload any documents that you may have, such as audited financial reports, or different rent roll activities with our compliance team. It'll show in this section here, along with upload files here. So please make sure that it'll show you how many currently you have in your electronic documents upload for your project. But if you do need to upload any, please use the upload tab, and you'll be able to go through that that way.
Laquana, really quick, we got a
Yeah.
request to enlarge screen. If you are
let's
able,
see.
can you go to the top right 3 dots and zoom it out just a little bit?
Zoom out, right?
I'm sorry, make it larger.
In.
Sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
How about that? Too big?
Is that good, Liz? I think that's good. I think we're good to go. Perfect.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Thank you. So here is the AOC section. You'll submit your AOCs through the certification portal. So a lot of times, around that time period in January or February, you get a lot of emails. Yes, you complete your AOCs in here in this system as well, but a lot of times this is only your super users who have access to this information. So please make sure that is also known. But if you have any questions as it pertains to your AOC, that needs to go to our compliance team. So I have dropped their email in the chat as well. This is the building section. We'll go through the buildings in just a moment. Import all building data. This is for our partners who use XML uploads. XML uploads are really beneficial if you are able to do it. So a lot of times our parties, a lot of time they're, excuse me, a lot of times we have to go back.
Mhm.
Can you mute, please? Thank you. Um, this is the XML upload. So if you are uploading any tenant data via XML, which is the NAMA 5.0 file or larger, this is where you would use that. This is where you would use it, but this is for all building data, as it states here on the left. Upload files we just went through. And again, AOC, this is if you're completing your AOC. This is if you have any further questions with that, that is our compliance team. We also have a new tab here, or you may have seen it or may haven't, is the change request. We'll be using that option in the near future to be able to, you guys to be able to initiate your PCC request and general requests that you may have for the Emphasys team. Please note, we hope to roll that out later this year, but there will also be a training when that does become available. So from this screen, we're going to go to buildings. This is what you should see when you are uploading any tenant data or reviewing anything of that sort. So we get a lot of questions about these tabs here. What do they mean? Or, what am I looking at if it says not tested or not ready? So your building ID is just your building ID. If you have any discrepancies with that or you have any questions and it might look incorrect, please make sure that you send us an email again at HFD. That's the same thing as your place and service dates. If you have any discrepancies with that, please send us the email. The last report date reflects the last date that you've had a successful submission. So we get that question a lot. The last report date and your last submission date here, they may not mesh, and that will be okay. Basically, your last submission date is, say, I completed my submission today. So this one here says July 22nd, but the last report date here on the right says March 31st. That all goes along with your current reporting period. So if you have a current, for instance, here, we have a current reporting period now of April 1st through March 30th of 2021, but the last report date is March 31st. But they also submitted July 22nd. So that means they submitted July 22nd for the March reporting period. It came back successful. And so now they're changing their new reporting period is now April 1st through April 30th. Because most of our most of our partners are on monthly reporting. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. I'm going to go on to our IRS compliance status and the agency compliance status. Both of those go hand in hand. We also get a lot of questions about that. I just want to remind you that this directly relates to your deeper targeted restrictions along with your set aside. So if you are having any issues with your set asides or your deeper targeted, any of those units that are not testing right on our end, that is what will cause your building to go out of compliance. And so it will either say after you've done this submission in compliance, which means you had a successful submission, out of compliance, meaning there is some errors and we probably need to work on it to fix it. So if you do get those errors, my suggestion is run your reports that Jasmine and Marvetta will talk more about reports later, but that is your LIHTC home and occupancy report, and along with your income and rent limit status report. Very, very important if you're doing your submissions. As far as this tab, which is the home compliance status, a lot of times it'll say not tested, or it will say tested if you have home funds that was allocated by DCA. So again, if those home funds were not allocated by DCA, or the system isn't going to test for it because that's not what we allocated on our end. Okay. I'm also going to go over import building data. So that is here. that goes along with your XML. So if you're going to import data based on the building, this is the button you will check, of course. So highlight, click this button, use your NAMA 5.0 file or larger, and upload. We highly encourage with your reporting periods. A lot of things go back to those reporting periods. So we highly encourage you to, if you are doing XMLs, try to make sure your reporting periods are matching. So then that way, when you're uploading, you're not having any issues. A lot of times when people are getting errors saying their XMLs aren't matching what's currently in the system. So my rule of thumb is review your XML to what's currently in our system, in the Emphasys system, to make sure that I'm not going to say mention, but making sure that all the data is chronological, like it makes sense to say, I got to move out, but your move out on your XML may be a different day. So just make sure that everything sort of matches or goes chronological so that you don't have any issues when you do upload that file, because that is what we get a lot of questions about. View details is just the same thing. If you highlight your building and hit view details, it's just giving you an overview of the building, how many units are in here, the address of the property, the IRS status test when you did complete your submission. Same thing for agency and home. Okay. Change reporting period. See how you can change it for all your buildings, or you can change it per building. Please note that we put some people on annual basis to make sure they're getting current. So if I was looking at this and we're in this reporting in 2021, but we're in 2025, we might make a suggestion saying, hey, can we we might change our reporting to annual, just to ensure that we can, that you can get all your data input in a timely fashion. But again, we would suggest that all reporting periods match, but we understand that sometimes you don't get all of your information that you may need in time. And so if that happens, that's okay. Submit tenant certs. It's the same thing in this section here where we have tenant research status, whether not ready or ready. Not ready means that we don't have the building selected as ready, and that'll go over more when Jasmine speaks in a few moments. But not ready means is that there's some certs in there that needs to be updated, and so none of them the building isn't ready to be submitted. So when they are ready, and it does say ready on this tab here, you'll go to submit tenant certs. Proceed to units. It just takes you to your units, and your reports are just the same. So you will run those reports, run those reports, run those reports, run those reports before you submit any tenant data. But that is it for me. I am going to pass it over to Jasmine to go over how to submit tenant certs.
Thank you, Laquana. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today again. My name is Jasmine. I am Emphasys Portfolio Analyst. Today, I will be giving you an overview of the tab available within your buildings in Emphasys Certification Portal. To ready all units and submit your tenant certs, which are very essential steps when finalizing your building data. In addition, I will briefly review 2 important reports you should check before submitting. Again, like Laquana said, household income rent limit status report and the LIHTC home annual occupancy report as well. Those reports will help you ensure your data is accurate and compliance before final submission. So hopefully by the end of the session, you'll find a full understanding of the certification workflow and to complete the key actions confidently and correctly in Emphasys. So as Laquana stated, you have your buildings. You will go into proceed to buildings. And once you have your buildings listed, you will click on your building and move into proceed to units. So now we're in the unit standpoint. So once you have your units listed, you will go into one of your units, select new tenant certs. And entering a new tenant cert in Emphasys, you must go into each unit, of course, which is right here, and verify the household data and enter the new rents. On the left-hand side, of course, you have your household members, income, assets, and unit rents. Once all this information is complete and accurate of what you think it is before you run your reports. Of course, you'll put your new cert date and you will hit save in this standpoint. So once you hit save, you will return back to the main screen, which is here, Once you have put in your information, also, I want to make point too, if you click on this unit, and we talked about the reports, you can click on household income and rent limits to see if you're over income or over rent in the households. Also, you can come out and click on the building and go to reports and click on your LIHTC home annual occupancy reports, making sure that all the information on both of those reports, all data is accurate before you submit. I'm not going to go in details of what you should look for and what you're going to see and everything on those reports because that's going to be Marvetta's part in the training. So I just want to make sure when you're in your units, before you ready all your units, making sure all the data is in there correctly. So once you're in your units and everything is correct and accurate, ready to go, you'll ready all units, and that's when you'll see your green check marks. Once everything is ready to go, you will close and click on each building to submit your tenant certs. So the next one, I'm going to go into the units and if you have to delete a tenant cert. So when you do, once you click on to delete the unit certs, you are able to delete your tenant certification, and sometimes you are not. But Marvetta will go over that part more in detail during the session. The next one is click on the unit, of course, and you go to your move out. Move out is pretty much self-explanatory. You know, whenever you have a date that's tenant moved out, you will place that in there. And of course, the reason eviction is not needed, and you will just click move out. The next unit is unit transfer. So once you proceed to the buildings in the unit transfer and you highlight the building to process to proceed with the units, to process a transfer, there must be a vacant unit available, of course. But also, please note that if the owner elects no to the question on 8B on 8609s, the specific building will be marked in our compliance. So we will treat that building as a separate project and no transfer can occur outside that building. Now, if the 8609 is checked yes, and you will select from the drop down, and the new building ID, which will be above this new unit, of course, all vacant units will show up in the new unit dropdown, which is right here. So for that specific building, you enter the date, of course, which is right here. And then once you have entered the information and you hit transfer, you'll come back to this screen and you'll see the list that reflect the transfer that proceed correctly for you. I want to come back right here. So where you see last certification date and recertification due date, please be sure to check the last cert date, as this will indicate when the next recertification date is due. And that is it for me. Of course, once you submit the tenant certs, it will let you know if you're in compliance or out of compliance. But now I'm going to move it on to Marvetta so she can review the best practices along with going over the required reports in depth and stacking.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hello, everyone. My name is Marvetta, and I'm also a Emphasys portfolio analyst. And I'm just going to go over briefly. Sorry. I'm just going to go over briefly some of our best practices and common errors that we see. And I just want to start out by talking about stacking. So stacking is basically when you're entering several years of certifications in the certification portal without or before submitting your building. And this is just an example of how it looks when you go into a unit and you have the units that are stacked. Basically, as you can see, there are several years of certifications in this building. And there is some risk. We definitely don't recommend stacking. There is definitely some risk with stacking. It's harder to identify and correct your mistakes when you stack your certs in the unit. And it's definitely a higher risk of losing a larger amount of data because you have so many certs in here that are unsaved. So there is definitely a chance of you losing a larger amount of data when you stack your cert. So the best practice for this would definitely be to submit your building after each reporting period. If there's a situation where you need to submit several years of certifications, we can put your project on an annual reporting basis where you will be able to go in and do your updates for the year and then submit them for that particular reporting period for that year. But you would still need to submit it by reporting period if it's on annual. And once it's back on monthly, submit it monthly. That is just the best practice with that. While we're on this screen, this is actually the delete tenant cert screen. Just remember, if you do need to delete a tenant cert, if the red X is here, you can actually go in and delete that cert. If it is grayed out, then of course you would not be able to delete that, and that would be a situation where you would most likely have to email the HFD Emphasis inbox for us to assist you with that. Um, in cases where the certs are stacked, especially like in this situation, if you need to go back and edit a cert, you do have to delete the most recent cert. That is important to know. And that's with any of the certs, basically. Even when you're having the issues with a previous cert, if it's an audit fine or whatever, and you're needing to have a previous cert edited or deleted, just remember that you do have to delete the most recent one to get to any of the previous certs. If you're not stacking your certs, of course, this string would only show just your most recent certification that you have in there. So it wouldn't show multiple. So you'd only have access to this one to go in and to edit or to delete it. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of move on to our reports. So basically with the reports, you would go in, you highlight your building, and then you would click on reports. We have two different reports. We have the LIHTC home and annual occupancy report, and we also have the household income and rent limit status reports. With the LIHTC home and annual occupancy report, you can run this report for all of your buildings. Make sure to click on include units without recent history. I am just going to run it on just this one building. With this report, there are a lot of identifying information on here as far as you verifying the information that you put on the tick. Definitely making sure one other thing on this report that I look at when I go to it is the market unit column here. If you have market units in your building and you've designated them correctly, it should say should have a Y here for yes. If it's not, then of course it's going to be no. So that is a way to verify that you have designated your market units correctly, along with the other identifying information that you would put on the tick here. For the household income and rent limit status report, this report does actually reveal some of the most common errors that you can see, especially with income and rent. But the main thing here is just verifying that you're verifying your income and rent limit status. So you're able to come to this report and verify that. You're able to verify the income limits and the rent limits that are being used and the effective dates of those limits. So make sure to definitely review this report. And while we're on this report, we'll go ahead and just kind of go into just a couple of the common errors that we see. So with the over income limit and over income and rent limits, I'm sorry, I think someone needs to mute there.
Yeah, just a reminder, if everybody could make sure that they are muted so we can ensure everybody's able to hear the information that's coming from this forum. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, on this report, basically what I was saying was one of the first errors that you could identify is the over income limit and rent limit errors. And as you can see here, like right here, it shows there's an initial over income limit. If there's an over rent limit, then that would show, of course, in this column. One of the main things with this, especially if you're able to still edit your cert, you want to make sure that you have no input errors. You want to make sure that you want to verify the tenant's income, that the income and the rent has been inputted correctly. You can also make sure you verify that the bedroom size for the unit is correct, that the household size is correct. Those two can't affect the income and rent limits. If it's a newer property and you're having issues, make sure that your address is correct, of course, and just making sure that the information is correct if you're having any issues with the income limits. Another issue that we see, of course, are missing certifications. The first thing is just, of course, making sure that you do all updates in your building before you submit it. We do see where a lot of buildings are being submitted before the updates take place, and that is going to cause an error. It's going to cause your building to be in our compliance queue. It's going to cause you delays with being able to update that. So make sure that you do all updates. Make sure that you're, of course, running your reports and making sure that you can alleviate those errors before you submit your building. However, if you have a misinsert due to just fail to recertify, whatever, make sure that you provide us with a reason or documentation as to why you have that misinsert for that unit. Another one of our common errors that we see, of course, is transient housing. Again, if it's an input error, just putting the wrong move-in date or something, let's go make sure that we verify that so we can definitely avoid that. But if it is a tenant that's there for less than 6 months, we do request a copy of a signed lease in that case. So just to reiterate again, I know you've heard several times, just to make sure that you run your reports. And we always say that because when you send us errors, that is one of the first things that we do is go and look at the reports. And a lot of those errors can be eliminated if you look at those before you submit your building. Okay, so that is for the most part our most common errors. So I'm going to hand it back to LaQuana for the closeout and for questions.
Thank you, Jasmine and Marvetta. I just wanted to give you a few reminders. If you want to not to alleviate any issues that you might have, please make sure, like Marvetta said, don't stack your certifications on top of each other. Make sure that you're running those reports. I also have the meeting request reminder in the chat. Again, this forum is only general questions or overview. This is not project specific. So when you do complete that form, we have put in the chat. I just see where somebody made a meeting, so thank you. Good job. I see it. Make sure you are putting comments in that section of that meeting request. It give at least the project number and what issues you are having, so we can better assist you when we do create that meeting. So the more information, the better. I just want to also give a reminder that we get a lot of emails from your third party people that submit your tenant data, such as a Yardi or one real page. Can you please ensure that the conversation needs to come from the super user only? If you would like the third party in the email, that's fine, but all communication between us and you all needs to come through your super user. We are getting a lot of that, so we want to make sure that it stops or we bridge the gap in the communication, because a lot of the training material that we are giving you all, it comes to you all and not the third party. What else I have? Again, just run your reports. We are all here to help each other. I don't have anything else, but again, I just want to remind you all that this forum is not project specific. This is overall general questions. But I am going to open the floor. I hope I answered a lot of the questions in the chat, but I see that they keep coming in. So I am going to open the floor. I see somebody asked, how would I fix the last report date to a current date? That means that you have to ensure that the previous submission was correct. But again, if a lot of times we do get that same question is how do I change that report date if it's not pushing you forward? That means there's an error within your submission, and that error needs to be corrected before it can push you any further with your submissions and to get you current. And then there's another question is, can you explain stacking? So stacking is when you submit a tenant cert for 2024, but let's say you're in 2025. You're submitting 2024, 2025, all in the same reporting period. You cannot do that. Each submission is based on that one reporting period, one certification per year. So one certification per unit per year. If you do anything else where you're putting different certifications for that one unit on top of each other, that is considered stacking. That will cause a lot of issues if you're trying to get something fixed. Say for that 2024 cert, we have to delete the 2025 to get you to the 2024 so we can update it. So just to make sure, please, again, one submission per year.
Here's a question that I think for the most part, it looks like most of our questions were answered in the chat. So I'm going back just to ensure if we missed anything, and it looks like we might have missed one or two. We answered about the PowerPoint. There was a question of how do you get the numbers? I'm assuming they mean dates to align. I hope and I think this is Adrian. I hope, Adrian, we answered that question for you. But if we didn't, if you could come offline and we can make sure to answer it more or give clarity if needed.
She said we answered it.
We answered perfect. Okay. And then there's another question here. Are we able to change unit types? Example, a low income unit goes over income and we need to change it to market rate or vice versa. Is this an Emphasys staff function only, or are we able to do that on site?
I answered that question, but I'm noticing
Okay.
that my chat responses aren't going directly to the person that sent the question. But yes, you can. You can change that on your end when you're updating your tenant certification. If you went into the new tenant cert, you can change that unit designation to market in that section.
Okay, perfect. And then one, can you cover the process for ARs that cannot be completed because the tenant is under eviction? Several jurisdictions in Georgia will dismiss the eviction if we proceed with annual recertifications. That's going to be one of our compliance questions. So I'll make sure we get in touch with one of our compliance managers. That's at the compliance@dca.ga.gov email address for you, but we will get that answered for you and send out a response. What is the best way to change head of household is the next question.
The best way would be
Yeah.
in general information, head of household information, and this is where you will go ahead and edit that information. And also someone mentioned earlier the owner's designation. This is the area where you would do that as well. And the household data.
Okay, and then we also have, if we have past due certs, how do we let you know the reason they are past due, and do we wait to submit?
Send us an email at HFD Emphasis to ensure that we do that. Sherry, it was a question above that was actually a good question. I meant to hint about it. So a lot of times when you're locked out of your building, that information was coming back from our compliance team. As of recently, we have taken over in notifying you of any errors that you may receive when you are completing the submission. So those are coming through our HFD Emphasis inbox. We are answering those and responding to those in the order they are received. So I'm not going to put a general time on it right now, but I will say if you don't hear anything, say for instance in a week, just send us a follow-up email to let us know that we have a building lockdown and we would like to know what those errors or issues are. Mhm.
Two more. And I think we can go if anybody else has any questions that haven't already been put in the chat, or if we missed one. Just to clarify, you would prefer us to preemptively send documentation for transit households / failures to recertify, as opposed to waiting for the correction email from HFD Emphasis.
That's fine, you can, because a lot of times those are issues that you know ahead of time. So if you know it ahead of time, just go ahead and send an email to HFD Emphasis and let them know, like, I recently submitted and I'm going ahead and providing the paperwork. We get a lot of people that do that, so that is just fine. I'm gonna answer this next question because I see it. It says, what if a unit designation was put in incorrectly during the last research? If that happens and your building is submitted and it's successful, you need to send an email to HFD Emphasis because we're gonna have to correct that on our end, or at least send it back to you so that you are able to update that.
And for these two, again, that's going to be from our compliance manager or your compliance counsel, if you have a consultant that you actually get all of your compliance questions answered. But how should we proceed when a tenant is under eviction and does not complete their recert? And can you repeat your response regarding ARs for residents under eviction? Those both we would need to get clarification from our compliance managers to ensure we're not directing you on the wrong route. And then, of course, in the interim, please feel free in order to get in touch with your compliance consultants as well. You can also send that request to compliance@dca.ga.gov, because that would be our compliance team that would be able to better answer that question for you. What does HMD Emphasis and the email address again? Oh, it's HFD emphasis@dca.ga.gov. We will make sure to get that posted again, both in the OPM blast and along with this recording. Thank you, LaQuana. And below allocation, oh, sorry, what does below allocation basis mean when it fails? I'm so sorry, y'all. As y'all are typing, the chat is going up and down, so I'm trying to keep up with it. What does below allocation basis mean when it fails? And what does not tested mean?
So not tested and building below allocation basis are the same things that I was referencing earlier. That is just basically that you have an issue with your deeper targeted restrictions or your current set asides. Not te- and so and then I didn't answer the question about not tested. Not tested is it's literally what it means. It's not tested because maybe there isn't a cert that hasn't been updated or that information does not qualify. So again, you are probably in the process of updating tenant certs, so it's not testing anything because nothing has been entered. And then I have to answer this question because we get a lot of questions about move-in dates, and then move-in dates being incorrect. At this time, we cannot change the move-in date that you may have put in emphasis that has been corrected. We do note it in the system on our end, but for other references, we cannot change it. But we do ensure that on our end that when you are completing the research for those units, that it should match whatever date is the correct date that you meant for that move-in to be. So annually, at whatever that year date is. And I'm gonna stop talking and give it to Jasmine Marvetta so they can answer some questions because I know I can go on. So
This next one, when a building is out of compliance under IRS, the household income and rent limits report is the report that will let us know why, correct? Yes. And
Yes,
Jasmine, you can feel free to go in on that more as well.
I'm sorry, where's the question again?
I can actually answer that
Okay.
question. I was just
Go ahead.
going to say, because that goes with the reports, that yes, that report is definitely something you can refer to for a lot of to try to identify a lot of those errors. Um, Actually, both of those reports are, again, just making sure that you haven't put in making sure that you verify all of your input for your tenant. And then again, like you said, if it's something that's over rent or over income, that report would show you that. So that is a very important report to run.
Yes.
What else do we have? And okay, I see one where it says how do you correct the set aside issue if we are failing allocation basis. Basically, with that again, with failing allocation basis, it's just that again, you got to make sure that you inputted all the information correctly. Sometimes you don't realize that you have stuff that a unit is showing as market, or that's something that's causing it to fail. So just make sure again that's basically with that report, making sure. Sometimes with that, if it's a previous cert, sometimes we do have to assist with that. So I wanted to say that. So if you've gone through everything with a fine tooth comb and you can't find it, now sometimes we do have to assist because we're able to look at the previous information that you can't see if the information has already been submitted. So.
But if there is a market, we will reach out to you through HFD and ask how many market rates are available in that building or unit to let us know to update it on our end to push that through for you.
And as far as the missing certs and the evictions and everything, like I said, when you're submitting the buildings and you know you have it, a lot of times for us, we just want to get an idea of what's going on. That's why I say provide us with, a reason explanation. If you have documentation, you can provide that as well. But we have to do our due diligence before posting that building. So.
I see a hand up. So let me know if I think we've gotten everything out of the chat. Please go ahead and put your hand up if we've missed anything. But yes, Magnolia, you can go ahead.
Okay, my question is, me and Laquan have been working together for a while, trying to clean up my emphasis. And the issues that I'm having is when she had to go in and delete a whole year of search for me to go backwards to update, when I'm trying to put in the people that's been on our property for years, because you got to put in the initial move insert. So when they moved in like in 2009, how do I get that to go forward? Because like if I got to put in her 2009, and then even if I jump to their new income for 2024, I'll just use an example. It's combining the incomes together. So once we start running the reports, now I look like I got all these units over income. Then I got to go back in to change the income.
Can we schedule a call? I know who you are, so let's just schedule. If you send me an email, let's schedule a call. Because that's pretty project specific. So I will say, let's
Yeah,
schedule a call. Create that. Use that link, and then we'll make a call.
Okay,
we have to look at that. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
thank you.
Once we reviewed it, and from my understanding, once we've reviewed the misinsert era and you provided whatever documentation is satisfactory, once we post that building, that should continue to be that should be it for that at that point, if I'm not mistaken on that. I guess Laquan, if you want to correct me on that, I don't think we have to continue
Well, what it is,
to
they
do
wanted
that.
me to start going back because when you guys switched over from Midas to Emphasis, none of our current information rolled over to Emphasis. So that put us back years. So when we had a management, we had an ownership change. The previous ownership, even though we wasn't caught up, they uploaded all of 2023 certifications. And then that's when she was telling me that the information was stacked on top of each other. So Laquana had to go in and delete all of that 2023 information. Then now that when she deleted that, it deleted a lot of our current residents. Then we had to go back in and put in our current residents. So now the information is still stacking on top of each other.
Oh, and I understand. And I think she's gonna do a one-off with you. I was just basically referencing anyone who has have
Oh,
issues with
I
recertification.
apologize.
And no, you're fine. But I was just basically referencing just the because I know we have quite a few questions that are questioning the past due certs and
Gotcha.
recertifications. I was just saying that once we've satisfied that requirement, you don't have to continue to submit that documentation that should satisfy it until it's updated.
I want to answer this question because I answered it previously about these move-in dates. I see where Integral is saying that a lot of dates were incorrectly pulled. Again, we can't change it. So the Emphasis software isn't capable right now to go through and change each move-in date. So we are fine if you send us an email so we can notate it on your end about that project. And then from there, any recertifications you do therefore, we'll make sure that it's going you just recertify them on the correct date that you all have. And then that way the system is going to pick it up as, okay, that is the new date. But your move-in date won't change. It won't change anything in the certification part, but the system now knows to recertify you based on that last recertification date.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. And then I have one more. Sorry, did somebody have a question?
Hmm.
Okay, so it looks like I have one more. It says, when we submit legal documentation for a tenant who failed to recertify, will the building continue to lock with each submission thereafter, or is this flagged on your end?
And that's what I was trying to refer to. If when we post that correctly, it should not continue to lock every month for that reason.
Right.
If it does, then we would need to look into that because that is not supposed to happen.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay, did we get, let me see here. Was the issue resolved in Emphasis where subsidy is calculated on max rent limit?
Mm.
If this was a question that went to a
Like in the
particular
project
property,
space.
yeah, so what I would do is I would actually reach out to either the specialist who is assisting you, our Emphasis portfolio analyst who's assisting you, or go ahead and make sure that you fill out that form stack so we can make sure that we're answering per your particular property. And then there's another one here. Will this training be available for future and later review? Yes, this is being recorded, which is why we are trying to stay away from project specific information and questions so we don't blast your information out. And that's why we have the separate link so we can set up an individual meeting. So you'll be able to see this both on our website, and then we will make sure that we get this added to the upcoming OPM blast. And do you want us to email before submitting if we have past due certs?
I just
Yeah,
responded
you
back
can.
to you.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
All right. I
I'm
think we
watching the
might.
chat like a hawk, so I'm sorry, Sherry, that I'm going to.
No. This is perfect. This is teamwork in action. So I think we mostly answered most of the questions in the chat. If not, please let us know. You can go ahead and unmute yourselves, and I'll mute myself as well.
For a case student status.
Sorry, that
Or
was meant to
project lead.
be. Sorry, that was meant to be K through 12.
Yeah, I would need a little bit more information on that. I would just send the form stacks, and that might be project based, and I can go into it and get more information on it and see what's going on.
And we have two questions. One from a Brittany. I'll let you go first, and then I don't want to mess up your name. Is it Teresa?
Sharice.
Sharice. So Brittany and then Sharice.
Hey, so I was wondering, in Emphasis with the new ticks, do we need to enter the assets if there's no income from them? I still have been doing it, but it's just a question I was curious about. Since the new ticks does not show the assets.
Yes, please still enter those asset information because we still use the information from the tenant monthly submitting that y'all are doing for our pre-audit and for our compliance team to pull. So yes, please continue to enter that information.
Okay, thank you.
Sharice?
Yes, so when there's the wrong move-in date is in and the recert comes up, so for example, if it's the recert was in April, but that's the wrong move-in date, but the correct move-in date was 10, how do we bypass that recert that is requesting for, showing that we didn't, it needs to be updated? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Just submit it. So when you submit it for that period, just go ahead and submit it as you would normally do, but just skip it. The system should should it. We might have to push it through. So if that does happen, and if you know it's going to happen, let me say that. Send us an email. But other than that, once you do that new recertification, you shouldn't have that issue anymore. So again, rule of thumb is if you have a question where it's like, okay, let me make sure I don't have an issue, or I did submit and I got the error, send the email to HMD Emphasis so that way we can hopefully answer the question before it has to go any further or even in our compliance queue.
Okay, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Oh,
So in October, how do we go about doing that research? Do we just go in and put it in, or?
Like you have, so you're saying like you have it. Yeah, just put it in. Yeah, it's for this upcoming October.
Right. But the
Yep.
the research right now is showing April. So in October, we just go in and do it,
Yep.
add a new, okay.
That's correct.
Kimberly, you're good to go.
Thank you. All right, so I did ask this question before. I just want to make sure I do this right. So if my last report date is stuck in February, my current reporting period is June. So should I change my current reporting period back to February to fix whatever's stopping it? Like, you know what I mean? Is there something in February that's blocking it from updating? And then
Did you have a successful submission? That's a good question because you're saying that if you have your reporting period in February, when you submit your building, if it's successful, it should automatically take you to your next reporting period.
yeah,
If
it's
it
letting
is,
me
if
update
it's
my reporting
successful.
period, but my last report date is still stuck in February.
So you're not able to move forward with the March one, with the next reporting period, if you're doing monthly.
I don't know, honestly.
Because keep in mind, and that's why we say, I mean, your best practice is to report monthly. I know I just saw that. Even if you don't have updates, is to submit your buildings every month. If you're up to date, you should be just going in there every single month and reading all of your buildings and submitting. Right now, that's the way that our policy says. But if you're stuck and you're not able to get a successful submission, then we would just have to, of course, try to figure out what's going on to get that to move forward.
Okay.
If it is, actually out of compliance, then unfortunately we would need to actually post it out of compliance and then move forward with what our next step is for that.
Yeah,
But
so it
you
does
would,
say in compliance.
okay. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so I
just
was
kind of where,
confused. I'm
because
like,
so
why
if
is
you're
my line?
stuck and it's not able to move forward, it's like it's not a successful submission. It's just us trying to, figure that, you trying to figure out what's going on, or us working with you to try to figure out how we can get that move forward.
Okay, all right.
Just click on the form stack and we'll set a time for you.
And I see one that we might have already answered, but I wanted to make sure we didn't miss. What about when we transfer? Normally, their research date does not change, but when we do the transfer and emphasis, it changes their research date. How do we correct that?
If that's happening, as same thing as I said before, just go ahead and continue to recertify them on the date, the original date of the move in. It shouldn't do that. So if it is happening, let us look into it, but it shouldn't be happening. But I've heard of instances where it is happening. So it's case by case. So just continue to recertify them on that date, the original date.
And
of the
just
move-in.
making sure that you do it
Yeah.
as a transfer too. I just want to add that in there just to be honest. Sometimes they're referring to it as a transfer, but you're actually doing a move out and move in. So just make sure that when you do that, that you're actually going in the system and doing it as a transfer and not an actual move out and move in, because those are two different things. And it's not gonna capture the recertification date the same way if you don't do it as a transfer.
I see that we are approaching 12 o'clock. So I want to first off say thank you all for your time. Again, as we have stated previously, this recordings will be posted on our blast along with on our website under the Emphasis Compliance link. But if you have any further questions or you need some more elaboration, say project specific, please make sure that you use that form stack that we have attached here in the chat. And if you cannot reach all that when this meeting is over, make sure you just send us an email to HFD Emphasis to ensure that we can get you those links that you need to send. But I thank you all for your time. I will let Sherry close it out.
Completely agree. I hope y'all enjoyed this forum. We'll also have a feedback going out, a survey. We would love to do more of this with you. I want to just thank Laquana, Jasmine, and Marvetta to be here. We have more updates coming soon as well. So if you haven't already, I know everybody here is already assigned to our OPM blast, but also make sure that if you have any new employees, you're also getting them signed up as well and getting them on our Office of Portfolio Management website, where you will right now find the Emphasis compliance section that goes over a lot of the information that we just went over here in the forum with the awesome Emphasis manual that we currently have. So if you have any questions or concerns, again, we have those contacts posted at the very top of the chat, but we'll make sure to get that information repeated for everybody in the next upcoming blast. We hope you enjoyed and we can do this again. So please, please, please make sure you look out for that survey coming on the next blast. Thank y'all so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and a enjoyable weekend as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.